I'd like to welcome you all to the 2010 annual meeting of the Benjamin Rose Institute. In a moment, I'm going to pass the podium to our CEO, Richard Brody, in order to introduce our featured speaker today. But I thought I'd take a moment to call your attention to some of the key highlights of our year. Many of you were here last year for our annual meeting. We're featuring Lieutenant Governor Lee Fisher. Last summer, we held a breakfast forum to honor our own Dr. Sidney Katz for his years of service in the field of aging. We were featuring Senator Sherrod Brown for that breakfast. We've launched a research project focused on memory impaired, whether mental exercise can slow memory loss. And our annual luncheon featured many of our Mythbusters in a panel discussion. Mythbuster is a category not hard to fill in these days. Clearly, much more is done on a daily basis in the Institute. If that weren't enough, we asked our board and many members of the staff to work together in a 6-month project to update our strategic plan. The overarching theme of this plan is to create synergy among our 3 primary components, that being research, advocacy, and service on behalf of the aging community. In addition to that, you'll notice that we've elected to change our name to further reflect this mission. As of today, we're now known as the Benjamin Rose Institute on Aging.
For those of you who have been coming to our annual meetings, you know we usually do a topic related to something, some policy issue or something related exclusively to older people. For those of you who remember the last general election, the voters of Cuyahoga County did vote to change its form of government. And that is a pretty profound change. And it happened with, in some people's minds, not a lot of preparation, in other people's minds, considerable debate. It certainly did pass by a robust margin. And John and I also share some time in working on one of the committees that's working at the Human Services transition. And it is a huge and complex enterprise. And we thought, one, that since this passage in time and history only comes once, this was an opportunity to use this venue to give you an opportunity to hear someone who really knows something about this, its history, and something about the issues going forward. So with that as introduction, let me turn it over to John Begala.
Notwithstanding everything we've read in the Plain Dealer for the last couple of years, everybody who works in county government, one of the largest payrolls, by the way, in Cuyahoga County, is not a crook, is not a cheat, is not an incompetent putz. There are a lot of marvelous people working in county government who deserve better than some of the leadership that they've gotten in past years. And they work in those parts of county government that are closest to us in this room, human services, which consume about 45% of the resources that go through the county each year. Beginning January 1, and as a result of elections that will occur, primary in September, general election in November, we will have a new county executive replacing the Board of County Commissioners' executive functions. There are people who are expecting miracles of this person. So far, the Messiah has not materialized on either party's ballot, or neither is the Messiah rumored to be a candidate as an independent. Not even LeBron James is going to be a candidate. So we're going to have to deal with mere mortals stepping into this void with huge expectations. There are a lot of people who are looking to county government to somehow or another become the ignition for economic redevelopment of Northeast Ohio. To the extent that the county can be a more effective partner in that, we can certainly all be hopeful and hope that some resources can be sprung free for that purpose. But there's not enough money in Cuyahoga County government, and there's not enough presence in the way private capital is raised for the county to play anything more than a supportive role, as it does currently, perhaps a more effective supportive role, but nevertheless a supportive role in the redevelopment of the economy. Human services will remain the major purpose, the major function of county government. The second part of the arrangement there, the courts having been left pretty much out of the picture, is the creation of a county council of 11 people. The council members will all be elected from districts. The districts are diverse in their nature. We will have a very diverse county council going into next year. It's also important, I think, to look at the context within which these changes are happening at the county. There are two major developments, one national and one at the state, within which this is occurring and which have major implications for how we think about our opportunities and our challenges for this new county government going forward. One is the passage of health care reform legislation. Whether or not it stays passed is still a matter to be settled. I think it's highly unlikely that we're going to see a repeal of major provisions of the legislation. On the other hand, the realities of the federal deficit are starting to sink home even to the Democrats in Congress. We're borrowing over $1 trillion a year. We're phasing out of one war, escalating another one, and deficit financing enormous amounts of domestic spending from the economic stimulus program into basic programs operated by state government. To give you an example of that, the biggest chunk of stimulus dollars that are coming from the federal government to the state of Ohio isn't coming in the form of bridge construction, construction jobs, economic stimulus, trying to get manufacturing ginned up, capital investment in plant facilities or supportive services. None of those things. The biggest single chunk of money is coming in enhanced federal Medicaid matching dollars, which are pulling in about over $1 billion a year. Those enhanced dollars, while they're doing, they've upped the match from somewhere down around 60% to 70% for a 2-year period, maybe an additional 6 months, the first 6 months of next year. It's poured a lot of money into the state coffers that allowed the state of Ohio to stay afloat, allowed the healthcare industry as a whole, the only growing industry in the state of Ohio, to stay afloat, but at the public's expense. In the process of doing that, though, the whole endeavor has been deficit financed along with the rest of the ERA program down there. That is not sustainable. For those on the political left who like to talk about sustainability, we are spending at a rate at the federal level that is absolutely not sustainable. And it's time to start to live up on the left to the rhetoric of sustainability, looking out to the out years on what it is that we do to try to get our fiscal houses in order in Washington and here. How all of that plays out has huge implications for the state of Ohio, for Benjamin Rose, and for services to older adults in Cuyahoga County.